So, Google Scholar is a free searching platform, and it is probably the most used today. I highly recommend it. And like I said before, I am literally on Google Scholar every single day. Now, we're going to teach you how to use this platform and how to use it effectively. Because Google Scholar searches for scholarly material, including books, journal articles, conference papers, chapters, theses, and on a wide range of subjects. It contains over 389 million records, and this number is from 2018, so we're probably way over that by now. So it is by far the largest search engine available today. Hence, it's probably the most useful one to use today as well. Now, results are sorted by relevance, but you can also sort them based on full text matching, where it was published, who wrote it, how often it's been cited. So you can choose any of these options within your search results. So in this lesson, we're going to go into detail how Google Scholar, takes your keywords and how it adds Boolean operators and how it interprets them so that you understand what you're finding when you're doing a simple search. So before starting a search, it is quite important to understand the platform. And here are some of the Google Scholar default options. So one thing that's very good to know is it doesn't worry about case sensitivity. So you don't need to worry about case sensitivity. It doesn't matter if you've got uppercase, lowercase, it really doesn't matter. And this is really good to know, right? So if you typed in chiropractor, either spelled with a capital C or a little c, you get the same results. So that's a really good thing to know. Also, by default, you don't actually have to add any Boolean operator terms. But just so that you know, Google Scholar will always assume that you meant and. So it will search for all articles or all sources that include all of the terms that you add into the search box. So if you just write all the search words in, like neck, pain, spinal adjustment, Google Scholar will think that you've meant neck and pain and spinal and adjustment. And it will search for articles that includes all four terms and give you the results of these. Also, by default, Google Scholar searches the full text of scholarly materials, including full text articles, citations, abstracts, for these keywords that have been entered into the search box. So if you want to narrow that down, you need to tell Google Scholar that. Another default is the search range. So by default, Google Scholar will search the entire database that's available to it. So from all years that it's got, right? So keep that in mind as well. If you only wanted to look at the last couple of years, again, you need to tell Google Scholar that. Now, by default, or using the default settings, not always the best option for you to limit your search capability. So therefore, in the next couple of slides, we're just going to talk about how you can narrow down your search a bit. So how you can not go with the default settings, basically. And most importantly, though, how to use phrase searches, because you don't necessarily want spinal and adjustment as separate. You want spinal adjustment to go together. So it's a phrase. So how do you search for spinal adjustment combined? You do that by putting quotation marks in front of spinal at the end of adjustment. Then it will look for those two terms or those two words together. Then Google Scholar knows it's a phrase. But anyway, let's have a closer look at this. As I just mentioned, Google Scholar will by default put an and in after every word you put into your search box. But if you wanted to look at neck pain together, so you wanted it not to look at neck and pain, but neck pain together, then like I just mentioned before, you have quotation marks before and after. So quotation marks, neck, pain, then quotation marks, end. Right? Now it will look for neck pain, not neck separately from pain. So this can be very useful when you're searching the literature. Again, for like spinal manipulation. I mean, manipulation in research is used a lot because manipulation is kind of another word for an intervention. So believe me, I have searched these databases a lot. And again, it's best to have spinal manipulation together. Spinal adjustment is not necessarily a common search term, but spinal manipulation you'll find a lot more search articles for. You don't want Google Scholar separately looking for spinal and separately looking for manipulation. You find thousands of articles. But if you put quotation marks around it and it's looking for spinal manipulation or spinal adjustment, narrows it down big time. So very, very important. So adding quotation marks is super useful when searching. Another good thing to know is that Google Scholar already uses synonyms. So Google Scholar will automatically search for matching or similar meaning words. So if you put in tourism, it would also look for tourist. If you put in cognitive, it would also look for mental, and so on. So it's quite good to know that Google Scholar is reasonably smart, and you don't necessarily have to have thought of every possible synonym word. It will do that for you. But let's also look at some of the Boolean operators that we can use to define our search a little bit better. But remember quotation marks, very important. So we can refine our search by using the Boolean operator OR. So now your results will include any of the keywords. Using OR is a way of broadening your search. So if you didn't get a lot of articles, you could put OR in. So for example, if you search for the term iPhone and Android, you'll get studies that has got both iPhone and Android in them. So that narrows down the search. But if you put in iPhone or Android, now you get studies that have either got the iPhone or the Android in them. So it broadens the search term. So if you found thousands of papers and you wanted to narrow it down, think of using AND, which is also by default. By the way, if you just put iPhone and Android, it will assume AND. If you found very few papers and you wanted to broaden your search a little bit, you could put OR in between the terms. Then you'll get more papers. Now, another way to narrow down your search is to put in exclusions. And sometimes you do a search and it's like, it's found all of these particular type of papers that I don't want. You can actually put a minus in front of what you don't want. So instead of not, the Boolean word not, Google Scholar uses minus. So you put the little dash, which is a minus, right? Dash, and you can put a word in that you don't want it to include, and then you can get rid of all of those papers in your search that you weren't after. So say, for example, you were looking at spinal manipulation and you got a lot about the knee and you didn't want that. Then you can put minus knee. You put dash, knee, no gap, and then you'd get rid of all the articles that were talking about manipulating the knee. Or, for example, if you were looking for neck pain, but you didn't want injuries, you didn't want car accidents, or you could put minus injury. And then you'll get all of the neck pain articles, but you won't get the ones that have the term injury in them. So it's a way of narrowing down your search term. So to exclude articles, find a particular word that shows up a lot that you want to get rid of, and then put the dash or the minus sign immediately before that term, and you will exclude them all. So you just go back up to your search box, and you put in minus, whatever the word is, and hit search again, and now you should get rid of all the articles that has that term in it. Again, really, really useful. Believe you me. Now, sometimes another good way of refining your search is to put the plus sign immediately before a term that you want to include. So say again you were searching neck pain and you've put minus injury, but you could put plus patient. So now you'll find articles about neck pain that doesn't have the term injury in it, but it does have the word patient in it. So I'm hoping you get the idea here. Now, again, remember, neck pain is now in quotation marks, so it's a phrase. It searches for articles with neck pain together, not separately neck and pain. Again, that's a bit different. Another way you can narrow it down even more is by adding the word in title without a gap between them and followed immediately by a colon. Now, this will be looking for articles with the words that follow in the actual title of the article. So again, if you were looking for neck pain minus injury plus patient and you wanted chiropractic in the title, you can write in title, chiropractic. And now it will be searching for the term chiropractic in the title of the document. Again, it's a way of narrowing down big time the amount of articles that you are having to look through. Because imagine how many articles are out there on neck pain. Even if you exclude injury and you include patient, there's still a lot of articles. So you can narrow it down by putting a keyword for the title. You might want to put spinal manipulation in the title. That's another possibility. But in title, colon, and whatever follows is a way of narrowing it down to these terms or this word is in the title of the article. Now, there are a few other ways that you can refine down your search as well. For example, you can add in the author and a colon and then a name, and this will find search results by a particular author. This can be very useful if you're looking for a particular author's research articles. So you could, for example, put in author colon Heidi, and you'd find articles that are authored by a Heidi. Could put a Heidi Horvick in there too. Now, the date range is also very useful. So you can change the date range from any time to a particular period of time. So it could be in the last couple of years. I use this quite a lot, especially if I want to update a search that I've done previously. And I just want to look at what's the latest on this topic. I mean, there's so many research articles coming in every day that it's very useful to do just in the last couple of years, kind of a search. The document type is also quite useful, so you can choose to select only looking at review articles, for example, or just case law, or my library, or you can deselect including patients, which we've done before anyway. It's very useful sometimes to just narrow it down. Quite often I'll start a search and I'll look for review articles first. What is known? What are the reviews on this topic? And then I might specifically go in and look at the individual articles on that topic as well. But by then I already have an idea of what's available. And of course, I always keep in mind the review article I'm looking at and reading, what year was that published? So if it's a review article from 10 years ago, it might give me a good idea of what we knew 10 years ago, but it doesn't tell me anything about what we know in the last 10 years, right? So ideally, you get a review article that's done recently, and that gives you a good idea about the topic. We're going to go on and show you an example now, but first and foremost, again, just pause and test yourself on what we've just covered.